Hello everybody, how is it going? Now, I want you viewing OCD recovery as a lifelong project, a lifelong mission, a process, a marathon. The reason I say that is because if you're doing it to fix OCD or getting rid of OCD or to cure yourself of OCD, then I wish you the best of luck. But also, OCD will cling in there. It will dig its heels in. It will gnaw its teeth right in there and won't budge. Because OCD is incredibly stubborn, it's incredibly resilient, and it's relentless. And it doesn't budge very easily. It doesn't just back down because you want it to back down. So the reason I approach it as a lifelong project is because then it erases any kind of time frame. It gets rid of any kind of finishing line. There is no finishing line. You don't just run through the finishing line and then you're out of the woods and you've recovered from OCD. There is no final destination. There is no deadline or time frame or any period of time that it takes, because it varies from person to person. But also take away the additional pressure that you place on yourself. Because when you view it as a fix, when you view all the tools that we're teaching you in the coaching calls as a fix and to get rid of OCD and to cure yourself and to eliminate OCD, then it's going to hang in there. Plus, you're putting that pressure on. You're trying to recover from OCD with a gun to your head, and that isn't going to work, right? That's like trying to do a Rubik's Cube with somebody pointing a gun to your head, trying to solve a puzzle when a tiger is chained to the wall ready to pounce at you. It's not really going to work, is it? You're not going to really be able to concentrate and function with clarity, because there's too much added pressure and the stress is going to be through the roof. And recovery can be a bit like that, because when I first came in, I wanted to be fixed. I wanted to be cured. I was hoping to hear a magic sentence from Rob and then all my problems would fade, and then OCD recovery would just land on my lap and off I go and resume life as normal before OCD hit. That isn't the reality, I'm afraid, and that is not the case at all. Okay, so in order to turn the tide against OCD, I like using that phrase, we're turning the tide, because when we're getting bogged down by OCD and when we're trapped and consumed in the OCD cycle, the bombardment of thoughts, the invasion of intrusive feelings, the intrusive urges, intrusive sensations, the guilt and shame pumping away, all the different emotions that we get with OCD, when we're caught up, when we're locked up in that, and when we're very internalized, it's very hard to build momentum to turn that tide the other way. So in order to turn the tide, we have to view it as, right, okay, let's drop the weapons here. Let's surrender. Let's just let OCD do its worst. Let's let it latch. Let's stop the fighting. Come off the battlefield. You don't need to fight. You don't need to resist. Any kind of fighting is the problem. Any kind of keeping OCD at bay is the problem. Any kind of resistance actually means that OCD will persist, and you're adding petrol to the fire every time you try and put it out, every time you try and get rid or neutralize or disprove, or any kind of thought that you may be trying to diffuse or feeling that you don't like and you're trying to shift it away. That is actually adding power behind OCD, and it's then coming in with even more force because you're fighting it. And view it as you're fighting your own brain. That's not really going to end well, is it? You want to be building a good relationship. You want to have that friendlier relationship with your brain, because you don't want to be in a war with your own brain. That's not a place that anybody ideally wants to be. Okay, so how do we turn the tide against OCD? Now, we turn the tide against OCD by seeing ourselves as disturbed. Okay, we are emotionally disturbed, right? Because you are anxious, you are guilty, you are feeling panicked, you are feeling on the verge of crying all day long. You know, you're not thriving, you're just existing, you're surviving, you're just keeping your head above water, right? So therefore you are in emotional disturbance, you are emotionally distressed. So in order to change that, we have to look at the thinking involved, the crooked thinking behind that emotional reaction. Where is our thinking going wrong? How is my rigid beliefs fueling to this? My rigid demands, my musts, my shoulds, my oughts, my needs, my have tos, my got tos. I need to try and change them to more flexible preferences. How is my catastrophic thinking going? My extreme thinking, my awfulizing. I need to look to anti-catastrophize them. I need to look to anti-awfulize them, meaning I want to be using more lenient, flexible words rather than saying, oh, my life is wrecked, if that was true. Oh, my life will be ruined. Oh, my life will be over. Or this is totally terrible, awful, horrible, the worst possible thing. Any way of describing your fears and your worst case scenarios and so on, the wording is crucial. The verbiage that you use is critical. It plays a big part. People underestimate that. Our catastrophic thinking does fuel a lot of the suffering. So it's very important we're looking to diffuse the catastrophization with the language that we're using. Now, if you are realizing that you are stating, I can't stand it a lot, or I can't bear it, this is unbearable, I can't cope, all the low frustration tolerance fueled beliefs, we want to be looking to increase our frustration tolerance, I really don't like this, but I can stand it and I will do whatever it takes to stand it, no matter what. I might not be bearing it very well, but I will do whatever it takes to bear it, no matter how uncomfortable and how unpleasant and how undesirable this would be. I will do everything in my power to get through this inconvenience and this hardship and this adversity, or whatever your fear may be. And of course, we will do this in coaching calls. But where I'm going with this is showing you how you are disturbed because of your irrational thinking. So if we start viewing it as a lifelong project to change our thinking, then not only do we drop the deadlines, but we see it as a mission. We get absorbed by the challenge of changing our thinking. We get absorbed by the healthy pursuit to change our thinking. That was the biggest thing that changed for me, because I found I had very self-downing beliefs. I was the first person to down myself. I'm bad, I'm worthless, I'm undeserving, I'm wrong, I'm no good, I'm a terrible person, I don't deserve to be happy, life is ruined. I was all the life downing and so on. I was completely writing my life off. And when I was going towards life and self-acceptance, although initially I found that a chore, but over time, I actually started to enjoy it. I enjoyed thinking about my thinking. And I thrived off changing my crooked thinking to more healthier thinking, and healthier because it provided more healthier results. Okay, it gave me more productivity. It made me more efficient. It made me more competent. It made me more effective with life. I was better at problem solving. I developed a robust approach to dealing with life's hassles and problems. And that was because I was beginning to change my thinking, and I actually enjoyed changing my thinking. Right, which is critical. And that's probably got me to where I am today. The fact that I wasn't changing my thinking because I had to is because I wanted to, plus I could see the benefit of rational thinking, right? And as I started to change my thinking, that started to deconstruct the framework that OCD was thriving upon. Because OCD takes orders from your thinking. OCD takes its marching orders from your rigid beliefs. So if you start adjusting your rigid beliefs and start changing to more flexible beliefs and more open-minded beliefs, and you start breaking down the perspectives that are fueling the disturbed emotional reaction, then OCD then starts to back down, then it starts to budge, but with time. But we have to take a look at our thinking. But please see that as a lifelong approach, a long-term approach. When I say lifelong, it doesn't mean a lifelong of suffering, but it just means you're understanding that OCD is terminal, is permanent, is here to stay. We're not here to get rid of OCD. You don't come on a coaching call with me and I'm going, right, how do we get rid of your OCD today? 5 steps for a quick fix, let's go. Number 1, no, I don't do that because it doesn't work. I'd be a pretty poor coach if I was doing that, because I'd be giving you completely false hope, and that wouldn't be the case at all, right? We can't just get rid of OCD. So what we do is set the foundations. We lay the principles down where, okay, let's start thinking about our thinking. Let's see how your crooked thinking is causing you a lot of disruption with you achieving your goals and your desires because your emotional reaction isn't healthy. If you're chronically depressed, ashamed, guilty, disturbed, panicked, anxious, you're gonna deviate from achieving your goals and desires because you're so emotionally caught up, you're so emotionally consumed, you're so internally locked in and trapped that it's going to divert you away from the direction that you want to be heading in your life. So it's very important that we're looking to change our thinking. It's also very important that you are approaching unconditional self, life, and other acceptance with a lifelong approach, a long-term approach. You cannot bolt down unconditional acceptance. Unconditional acceptance, for me and for many others, is like learning a language, right? I could see the principles of unconditional self-acceptance, especially, but even after a year in, 18 months in, I could see it and I was starting to grasp it and I was starting to understand it and I could see how it was going to be so beneficial for me. But I still felt chronically guilty and ashamed because I didn't know how to embody it. I didn't know how to philosophize it. And that was even 18 months after my first call, after my first coaching call. And so I was 18 months into the recovery journey. And although I could explain unconditional acceptance relatively well to somebody in that situation, but I still didn't believe it. I didn't embody it. I didn't practice what I was trying to preach. So with time, I started to become more fluent. Okay, I'll drop the time frames. If I said, I need to be fluent in unconditional self and life forever acceptance 2 years in, and if I'm not, my life's ruined, I give up. What a disastrous approach. So I took away the deadlines. I stood off and said, this is going to take as long as it's going to take. I'm going to prioritize it, yes. I'm going to try and speed it up as much as I can, yes, by making it a priority, by saying this isn't up there in the top 3 important things in my life right now. So I was going to make it a priority, but still drop the time frame. Surrender to the time. Let it take as long as it was going to take. And I was willing to do that. And over time, I started to embody it. It started to make more sense. It started to sink in. And I started to think naturally in an unconditional accepting way. But that only started to happen once I dropped the internal pressure and the internal gun to my head to apply the thinking. I had to get used to letting it take time and completely drop all the pressure, and then started to gradually sink in and became more natural. And it started to become an accustomed way of thinking, where I was like, oh, okay, this makes total sense. And I didn't have to force it then. I didn't have to practice it again and again and again. It just became a more natural way. All right? You also want to be looking at your behaviors, your habits, your laziness, your procrastination, your structure. Is your life heading in the direction that you want it to go? Are you still performing many compulsions? Because that's fueling the OCD cycle. But you've got to view it as a lifelong. Of course, you can't be waiting a lifelong to cut compulsions. But what I'm saying is that when you cut a compulsion, you can't be going, right, come on, I've been cutting compulsions now for 3 months, why ain't it gone? You've got to view it as a long-term approach, okay? You're on the OCD recovery journey. Now, I'm on the OCD recovery journey. I'm in the recovered stage because I'm recovered from OCD. But I'm still on the recovery journey because I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I haven't gotten rid of it. I haven't had a brain transplant, meaning the OCD's gone and is a distant memory. No, I still have OCD, right? And I still could have a setback. I'm not immune to having a setback. Would it be unlikely? Yes, because I've worked on my beliefs a lot. I don't do any compulsions. My structure's in a great place. My life's in a great place overall. But it doesn't mean I can't have a setback at all. I have to be vigilant that I have obsessive compulsive disorder. So I'm viewing my recovery journey as a lifelong, right? I don't have to do any maintenance work today. I don't have to do any recovery work today. But I'm aware and I'm vigilant that I have this chronic disorder and it's very severe. It's like somebody who maybe is sober from alcohol for 30 years. They're still an alcoholic. They still have alcoholism that they're suffering with, but they're just in the sobriety stages. But they still have to be aware and vigilant that they've had a problem many years ago with alcoholism. So they have to be understanding that they could go back into that, same as I have to be understanding of that. If I start doing compulsions again, if my thinking starts slipping back into a crooked way of thinking, then I imagine OCD will thrive and it will start coming in through the back door. If I start opening the door for compulsions, OCD will come barging in interruptedly, very unannounced, but it will come barging in. As soon as I start opening the door, OCD puts his foot in the door and shit, I can't shut the door now. Fuck, I can't shut the door. And it comes barging in. And it will do that because the floodgates will open. So we have to view it like that because you need to take the time pressure off. You won't recover from this very serious disorder with the time pressure on. Many people come in and go, Sam, get me better by Christmas. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, when's Christmas? What, you mean 6 months? Now you can make great progress. You can make huge strides. You really can. We see it all the time. You make great strides in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. You can. You can really start changing your life in those short periods of time. But recovery will take time and is more likely to happen if you drop the need for it to be gone by X, Y, and Z. Let it take time. Don't put additional pressure on. OCD suffering is hard enough as it is intense enough as it is. Don't add that gun to your head. Don't ramp up the internal pressure, needing it gone by X, Y, and Z. That's going to make it harder for you, and it's going to make you more locked up, more tense, and it's going to make it very intense for you to recover. And we don't want to be doing that because it's already a difficult task as it is. My OCD recovery has been the hardest thing that I've ever done in my lifetime, and it would take something huge to trump that. Okay, but my OCD recovery has been the biggest accomplishment. The nuances, the complexities, the ins and outs of the disorders, the ups and downs, the confusion, the feelings of loss, the doubting everything. Okay, it's not an easy task. It's not an easy feat. All right, just focus on one step at a time and see how can I undisturb myself? Where am I going wrong? How am I disturbed? And how can I undisturb myself? And take it step by step by step. Don't take the approach of looking at the top of Mount Everest and going, right, I want to be there on day one. No, you've got to think, how do I get there? One step at a time, and then I can start building up to that, but let it take as long as it's going to take. All right, please don't put that additional pressure on. If you are interested in one-to-one calls, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com and you get in touch with us here. My name's Sam. You've got Rob, Nick, Momin, Elliot and Gemma all doing coaching calls. So please email phil@ocdrecovery.com and we can get you booked in as soon as we possibly can. Anyway, guys, take care, look after yourself, and we'll speak again. Bye-bye.